The airlock hissed open, and Commander Reyes Okoye stepped onto the deck of the Voranthi Dominion flagship with her hands raised. Not in surrender, but in warning. "Do not fire that weapon," she said calmly, staring down the barrel of a plasma rifle held by a 7-foot alien soldier whose scales shimmered violet with rage. "You have no idea what's inside that cargo hold." The soldier laughed, a wet clicking sound. A human threatening a Voranthi warfleet. How precious. Behind her, smoke poured from the wreckage of 3 human corvettes, all that remained of the picket line that had tried, and failed, to stop the invasion fleet from reaching Earth's outer colonies. Reyes had one working ship, one working weapon, and 30 seconds before the Voranthi commander decided she wasn't worth the air she was breathing. "Last warning," she said. The alien commander, General Thrix Vol'kaan, stepped forward from the shadows of the bridge, his 4 eyes narrowing. He had crushed 11 civilizations in his campaign across the Kesh expanse. He had never once needed a second warning shot. "Humanity is a curiosity, Commander. A species that hasn't even mastered gravity manipulation, begging for mercy on my bridge. Do you understand what you are to us?" "I understand exactly what we are to you," Reyes said. "Primitive, weak, beneath, notice." "Then you understand your situation, I understand yours." Thrix froze. Something in her voice, not fear, not defiance, but certainty, made every instinct in his 400-year-old body scream that he had missed something enormous he had. But to understand how humanity's smallest, poorest, most primitive fleet ended up standing on the bridge of the mightiest warship in the Voranthi Dominion, holding all the power in the room, we have to go back. 3 weeks earlier, before the invasion, before anyone in the galaxy had reason to think of Earth as anything but a backwater curiosity not worth the fuel to conquer. Earth, in the year 2189, was not a military power. Everyone in the galaxy agreed on that. The Voranthi Dominion had spent 600 years conquering the Kesh expanse, a region of 94 star systems, absorbing every species that crossed their path through overwhelming firepower and ruthless efficiency. When their scouts first found humanity's tiny colonies scattered across 3 systems, the report back to Dominion Command was almost insulting in its brevity. Species, human. Technology, rudimentary. Threat level, negligible. Annexation, not conquest. Resistance unlikely, they weren't entirely wrong. Humanity had no dreadnoughts, no planet-cracking weapons, no fleet capable of standing against even a minor Voranthi task force. What the report failed to capture, what no scout, no scan, no intelligence officer bothered to look for, was why humans had built what little they had the way they'd built it. Every human ship carried triple redundant life support. Every human colony had underground shelters built to survive a direct orbital strike. Every human engineer, when asked why they overbuilt everything by a factor of 10, gave some version of the same answer. Because things go wrong, and when they do, people need to survive it. The Voranthi didn't build like that. They didn't need to. In 600 years, no enemy fleet had ever reached deep enough into their territory to matter. That was about to change. Ambassador Liang Ren stood before the Dominion's Regional Council 3 weeks before the invasion, offering the same trade terms humanity had offered every spacefaring civilization it met. Mutual non-aggression, open trade routes, shared scientific exchange. General Thrix Vol'kaan, presiding over the council session from his warfleet in orbit, didn't even let her finish. "Your species has nothing we require," he said. "Your worlds sit inside territory the Dominion has claimed. You will relocate to the reservation systems designated for absorbed species, or you will be removed." "We won't relocate," Liang said. "And we'd prefer not to be removed." Thrix's 4 eyes blinked in something between amusement and disbelief. "You would fight us?" "We'd prefer not to do that either," she said. "But if you force the choice, you should know something about humans first. Enlighten me. We've never had the luxury of being the strongest species in a conflict. Not once, not in our whole history. Every war we've ever fought, we fought as the underdog, against bigger armies, better weapons, longer odds. We didn't survive those wars by being the biggest. We survived them by being the ones who refused to lose." Thrix cut the transmission without responding. To him, it was empty rhetoric. The kind of thing weaker species said before they were crushed. He gave the order to mobilize the invasion fleet that same day. He would spend the rest of his life regretting how little attention he'd paid to those words. The first wave of the Voranthi invasion arrived at Earth's outer colony of Meridian Station 11 days later. 4 capital ships, 60 fighters, and General Thrix himself commanding from the flagship Ashkar's Wrath. Against them, humanity fielded exactly what intelligence had predicted. 3 aging corvettes, poorly armed, hopelessly outmatched. The corvettes didn't retreat. They didn't surrender. They flew directly into the heart of the Voranthi formation, weapons blazing, and died within 4 minutes. But not before their sacrifice accomplished something Thrix hadn't expected. Buried in the wreckage of the flagship's shields, unnoticed amid the chaos of battle, 3 tiny drones had slipped through and attached themselves to the Ashkar's Wrath's hull. They weren't weapons. They were listening posts. Humanity's oldest trick, dating back centuries. If you can't win a fight with force, win it with information. Commander Reyes Okoye watched the battle's aftermath from a hidden relay station 40,000 kilometers away. Her jaw tight, her crew silent around her. 3 ships, 31 people, gone in 4 minutes. They died for nothing, her tactical officer said quietly. No, Reyes said. They died buying us 4 minutes of full sensor access to that flagship's internal systems. That's not nothing, that's everything. What the drones revealed over the following hours stunned her crew into silence. The Voranthi Dominion, for all its power, had a fatal structural weakness, one born from 6 centuries of unbroken victory. Every ship in their fleet ran on a single, unified command network, a system so efficient it let one commander coordinate hundreds of vessels simultaneously, with 0 lag. It had never occurred to them that this efficiency was also a vulnerability. No enemy had ever been sophisticated enough to exploit it. No enemy had ever needed to be. Humans had spent 2 centuries building redundant, decentralized systems specifically because they'd learned, through bitter experience, never to trust a single point of failure. We're not going to beat their fleet, Reyes told her crew. We're going to beat their system. What followed wasn't a battle. It was a trap 3 weeks in the making, Reyes's tiny remaining fleet, 1 repaired corvette, a handful of civilian ships retrofitted with smuggled military tech, and a plan so audacious her own superiors initially refused to approve it, didn't try to outgun the Dominion's second invasion wave. Instead, they let themselves be found, let themselves be chased, let General Thrix believe he was finally cornering the last resistance humanity had to offer. He walked his flagship directly into sensor range of Reyes's modified relay drones. The same drones from Meridian Station, still transmitting, still listening, now carrying a very different payload. The moment the Ashkar's Wrath synced with its escort fleet's command network, humanity's drones rode that connection straight into the heart of the Dominion's unified system. Not to destroy it. To borrow it, feeding Thrix's own sensors a fabricated fleet of 40 capital ships that didn't exist, positioned to encircle his formation from every direction. It was the oldest trick in human military history, dressed in new technology. Make the enemy see a threat large enough that their overwhelming force becomes a liability instead of an advantage. That was the moment General Thrix Vol'kaan, 400-year veteran of 100 conquests, gave the order that would end his campaign, a full retreat of his support fleet, leaving the flagship alone to negotiate, convinced he was buying time against 40 ships that existed nowhere but in his own sensors. That was the moment Commander Reyes Okoye walked onto his bridge with her hands raised, not in surrender, and told him not to fire. You understand your situation, Reyes said again, watching the realization spread across Thrix's four-eyed face as his tactical officer frantically reported that the Phantom fleet had vanished. Because it had never existed at all. His support ships were gone, his flagship was alone, and the primitive species he'd dismissed without a second thought now controlled every sensor reading on his bridge. You didn't beat us with strength, Thrix said quietly, something in his voice breaking for the first time in 6 centuries. No, Reyes agreed. We beat you the way we've always won, by refusing to lose, and by never underestimating anyone who did the same to us. You should have asked why every human ship carries 3 backup systems for everything. You'd have realized we don't build for a galaxy where we're strong. We build for a galaxy where we might not be, and we survive it anyway. Thrix Vol'kaan, conqueror of 94 systems, lowered his weapon. The war didn't end that day with humanity destroying the Voranthi Dominion. It ended with something rarer, and in the long run far more powerful. A treaty, signed under the wreckage of a flagship that never fired a single shot, between a species that had learned to conquer through overwhelming force. And one that had learned something far harder to teach: how to win without needing to be the strongest ship in the room. Word spread through 94 systems within a month. The galaxy had called Earth primitive, then Earth had shown them exactly what that word had always meant among humans. Not weak, but unbroken. Not small but never ever finished.